Hey guys, this is the Unsmooth Criminal, and I'm back with you for part 2 of What If Deku, or Fem Deku, was a demon. And so the last time Naruko just made a pact with uh, Izumi, and so Naruko has a body, and she's walking around the world. She has all 9 tails, she's still at her prime power, and she's living with Izumi at the dorms. And Izumi, with how much power she's been gaining from the packs that she's been doing, because every time she makes a pack, she gains a little bit of power from the person that she's just signed a contract with, and she's been slowly evolving. So one day, Izumi was in her room, and she fell asleep, curled up into a ball, and she stayed asleep for a while. After a while, Naruko got worried because Naruko is starting to have feelings for Izumi. And yes, I got this from one of you guys. Thank you for the suggestion. It's a really good suggestion. But she knocked on the door and got no answer. So she knocked again and got no answer again. And then she knocked again and again and again. And finally, she's like, screw this, and kicked the door down. And all she saw was a cocoon. And Naruko was getting worried, so she walked up to the cocoon and used her chakra to use some medical ninjutsu to see if there's anything wrong with her, and there was nothing wrong. She was actually evolving from what she could see. So Izumi's in the cocoon. A few weeks later, Izumi wakes up and breaks out of the cocoon, and she doesn't look like this. No, at first she looks like this, but after a few days, she looks like this. Yes, I love this Mira skin. I'm sorry. If anybody knows who Mira is from Fairy Tail, put it in the comments. And you get 10 billion points and do absolutely nothing. So, the next thing that happens is Izumi is walking out of her room and sees Naruko and sees that Naruko is worried. And Izumi asks, what's the problem? And Naruko jumps up at the sudden sound from Izumi, runs over and hugs Izumi, saying, I was worried. And Izumi, not knowing exactly what's going on, and she says, are you ready to get your old husband back? And she says, no, you can leave him there. He's done enough for this world to warrant a vacation for a while. And Izumi says, okay, I understand. And Izumi says, do you remember the rest of our deal? And she goes, yeah, I do. So Izumi takes a piece of Naruko's hair and says, if I drop a piece of blood on this, the hair will disappear and your child will be born. And she goes, what do you mean will be born? And Izumi says, since my quirk is basically magic, it technically is magic in science eyes, but I have everything a demon can do, so I can impregnate people without actually sex. And she looks at her confused, and so she takes a piece of Naruko's hair, drops a piece of blood on it. 9 months later, Izumi has now a child, and Naruko sees her daughter again, and sees that it looks exactly like her daughter, and asks, what's the difference between her daughter and this version of her daughter and the last one? And Izumi says, this version of your daughter has a quirk. You don't have a quirk. You are a kitsune blood-related kitsune, but your daughter does not have kitsune blood in her. She is a human through and through. And Naruko looks at her and goes, what? And Izumi says, yes, your daughter's blood through and through human, and she has the blood of your husband and the blood of you, so she looks like you, and she has the abilities of your husband, and she has your abilities too, and it's all classified as a quirk now because of me. And Naruto says, okay, that makes more sense. And now it's time for the... I forget if I did the overhaul arc, but I'm doing my own arc now. It's now time for the OC arc, the original character arc. So, Izumi is walking to UA with both of them because she's been doing that lately, because Naruto needs to get used to this world. And Izumi says, you're going to have to stand outside a little bit. And Naruto says, why? And Izumi says, because the people in my class don't really know you are Kitsune and don't know you are real. So, you are now a living legend, literally. Or a living myth, whatever you want to call it. And it's time for people to face reality that myths and legends aren't actually that crazy. And Naruto says, I understand. It was hard for the people of my ninja village when I was in that era to understand what I was and accept it. So it's now the time. It's now midnight of that day, and a man is walking through the city, and he's just walking. Not doing anything suspicious, just walking, and Aizawa sees him and says, you, stop there. And this man stops all of a sudden going, what is it? Eraserhead. And without even identifying who this man was, Eraserhead knew that he was a threat because he never said his name. And he's never seen this man before. And he says, what is your quirk and who are you? And this man says, I do not have a quirk. And I am a serial killer. And his face lights up like a Christmas tree with a smile and turns to Aizawa and tries to stab him. Aizawa, not believing he didn't have a quirk, uses his abilities to turn the guy's quirk off. But the guy's quirk is hyper regeneration, and it's the only thing keeping him alive. So he starts rolling around on the ground in pain, and Aizawa sees this, saying, I'll stop turning off your quirk if you come with me silently. And the guy goes, fuck off! And he's just still screaming in pain and rolling on the ground. And he still has his quirk active. He calls Izumi saying, I need your help. And her, being a really light sleeper, picked up the phone immediately. And Naruto, who was sleeping with her, got woken up by it and asked what's wrong. And she goes, nothing, I'll be right back. And she disappears and appears right in front of Aizawa and says, what is it? And he was about to start talking. He's like, God damn, hold on. And she literally turns to this man and says, quiet. The man's mouth disappears, and she turns to Aizawa and says, that's better. And Aizawa goes, that's exactly what I kind of wanted you to do, is take care of him. And she looks to the man, who looks roughly 60 years old, and says, what exactly do you want me to do with him? And he goes, apparently his quirk is the only thing keeping him alive. He said that, and he won't come in quietly, and he's trying to kill me. And she goes, oh, okay. So she's like, deactivate your quirk. And he does, and the guy gets up and says, fuck you! That was rude! You don't know what people's quirks are doing to them? Mine's currently killing me and saving me at the same damn time. And Izumi walks up to him and says, I have a deal for you. And this man, knowing who Izumi is, because she's kind of famous right now, and says, whatever deal you want, I am not buying. And she goes, oh, really? what about this? Your quirk won't kill you anymore. Oh, sorry. Your quirk won't kill you anymore, but you cannot kill anymore. And he looks at her and goes, what's the catch? And she goes, a year off your life. And he goes, I'm immortal, so sure. So he signs it. He can't kill anymore. He physically cannot kill. It's literally impossible for him to do that. Sorry. So he's currently just running around, slicing people up, but everybody he slices up survives. Barely they survive. Because he can't hit vital spots. He can't hit them more than like once or twice in non-critical areas. But they still bleed a lot before anybody gets to them. So this man is still going around terrorizing people. And Aizawa says, oh my god. If Izumi didn't make that deal so lighthearted, he'd not be out there just terrorizing people. And Izumi walks into the room and says, hey, I took care of him. Show some respect to what I have been doing. And he goes, I know. You freaking saved everybody's asses more than once. She goes, damn right. I'll be right back. And now, Izumi says, it's time for me to test that rock. And so she walks over to the rock, and Naruto is watching over it, because that's still her job, is to take care of the Ten Tails. And Izumi looks at this rock and says, looks like it's laced with some life energy. And so she just puts her hand on it and pulls this energy out. And the rock's mouth, the mouth that's shown, opens and it starts screaming. And Izumi's like, oh god. So she pulls the mouth off of it with her abilities to literally pull mouths off, make mouths disappear off of people. And they still hear a screeching noise, and they're like, where the hell is this coming from? But Izumi doesn't hear it anymore, because she's also taken her ears off, so she doesn't have to hear it. And she takes all the life energy out of the rock, and the rock is just sitting there right now. No more screeching noise, no nothing. And Naruto walks up to the statue and places her hand on it, and doesn't feel the jubi anymore. And she asks, what did you do to the jubi? And Izumi says, the what? I just stole the energy that I had in it. And Naruto goes, what do you mean energy? And Izumi says, I felt life forces in there, and I stole all the energy in the life forces, so there's no life force left in that thing, but there's still more energy in that. It's constantly absorbing energy and reproducing it, or reusing it, to keep it strong, and as you could see, so it could talk. And Naruto goes, so what you're saying is I didn't perfectly seal the jubi away. And she goes, whatever the hell that thing is, you did not seal it perfectly away. And she goes, damn. If anybody knew how to unseal it, or knows how to unseal it, we're screwed. And Izumi goes, there's nothing living in that statue anymore. And Naruto goes, what? Naruto says there was roughly 9 life signs in there, and they're all dead now. And Naruto goes, so you killed the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tailed beasts and the 10 tails jubi that can easily annihilate this entire planet. And she goes, when you put it that way, yeah. And she goes, damn, you're strong. She goes, yeah. And she grabs Naruto by the hand and says, ready? And Naruto starts to freak out, going, wait, what? What? Huh? And they disappear, and Aizawa goes, What are they doing? Across town in Izumi's apartment, all you hear is a squeaky bed and someone moaning. Back with Aizawa! Aizawa is looking at this rock and he takes a tool, well, wondering what happened with it, and he takes it and he hits the rock and the tool breaks like it did last time. And he is like, what the hell is this? So he tries taking a knife and scraping the surface, and the knife gets ground down to dust. So I was like, just screw it. He puts it in a giant machine, and he has the giant machine try cutting it with a laser. Nothing happens. And later that day, Aizawa calls Izumi while they're done, and he says, I need your help again. And she goes, no, I'm not taking that statue apart. And he goes, what do you mean? I never asked you what I was going to do or say what I was going to ask you. And she goes, I know what you're thinking. No, I'm not taking that statue apart. And no, Naruto was not going to either. So, bye. And she hangs up, and he's like, damn, she is powerful. And at this point, Izumi is just passing out from the fun they had earlier. And yes, Izumi has body manipulation like a succubus does, because she has the powers of every demon. But she prefers the packs and the life drain abilities. So it's now 3 years later, and they're just graduating UA, and Izumi and Naruto have gotten so close that they are basically married. They never leave each other's sides. If for a second, if they do leave each other's sides for a second, one of them starts to freak out, mainly Naruto. And if Naruto disappears, Izumi starts to freak out, but Izumi's normally the one that disappears. So they've had a lot of fun. They're really close, and Izumi finally gets the courage to ask Naruto to marry her. Yes, I'm having this happen. But before that could happen, Todoroki finally goes up to Izumi and asks her out. And Izumi's like, this could be fun. So she calls up Naruto and asks if she's willing to do some exploration in bed. And Naruto, who was freaking out at that point, says, sure, why not? So Izumi says to Todoroki, if you're willing to have some exploration in bed with someone else, with a few other people, I'm game to go out on a date with you. And he says, sure. So she walks over to a few people, mainly Shoji and Kirishima and Mina, and asks if they're down to do some exploration in bed. And Mina and Kirishima, who've been going out for a while, are like, sure, let's do that. And so they all have a great, wonderful night. They have a very wonderful night, and that was their graduation party celebration, and they're now professional heroes. And now it's to the overhaul arc. Well, kind of the overhaul arc. So they're professional heroes, and everybody talking to everybody. They basically live together in the same household. It's a mansion. And Izumi hears the news from Night Eye that he has a lead on the missing girl, Eri. And if I did the overhaul arc in the last one, I'm sorry, I'm redoing it. A missing girl named Eri, and Izumi, hearing missing girl, goes, "Oh God, no, 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 no!" So she starts freaking out, and Naruto sees this and calms her down and asking what's the problem, and she goes that there's a missing girl and I need to help. So it's now time for the overhaul arc. So they all get to the meeting room, and Izumi is one of the head people at the table. And Night Eye says, if you could, can you please read the future on Eri? And he shows her a picture, and she goes, sure. And she reads the future and goes, yeah, we need to get her out of there. And they ask, what did you see? And she goes, a lot of terrible things. We need to get her out of there now. So 10 days later, they have the raid ready, and Izumi has already gone in before they could even get to the front door. And Izumi's running down the halls at full speed, looking like this, with electricity basically bolting off of her. And she's going lightning fast speeds, and all they see is a flash of light, and it's gone because of how fast she's moving. And it's now Overhaul just hit Eri with his quirk. So she's missing an arm, and Izumi sees this and starts to get really mad. Like, it's not the, oh, I'm mad at you because you just insulted me mad. It's the, you just stabbed me and I want to go into a blood frenzy like friggin' Kratos mad. So she goes and punches Overhaul's head off. And before his head hits the ground, she rewinds time. And everybody that she rewinded cannot feel pain. Well, except for the person that she's targeting. And she targeted Overhaul. So she rewinds time all the way back to before Eri is injured by Overhaul, and she hits Overhaul in the head again, knocking his head off again, and he's screaming at this point. He's rewinded. He feels the pain still, and he gets his head knocked off again. Then he's rewinded. His arms, legs, torso, all shattered. Rewinded. So she's torturing him. And Eri only sees this like a blip every few seconds. Just like speed, speed. And she remembers that she just got her arm blown off, but it's not gone anymore. Like, what? So, after like an hour of torturing him, like, she hits him every few seconds. An hour of torture. It felt like days for Overhaul. Tsukuyomi reference. So, Eri is finally picked up by Izumi and walked out of the base, and she says that the leader of the Yakuza is now on the ground in a blubbering mess. And they all look at her going, okay, we accept that. And she goes to Naruto and says, we have another little one. And Naruto says, yay, another little one. And Izumi says, what do you mean another little one? And Eri says, what do you mean another little one? And Izumi says, you have a sister that you're going to be living with, because you're going to be living with me and her. And points at Naruto and says, we're both pro heroes, and we are here to help you be a good hero. And Eri hears that she can be a hero, says, yeah. And Naruto sees the smile, and it reminds her of her daughter, and she immediately goes up and hugs Eri and says, thank God you're okay. And so that when they get home, they introduce Naruto's daughter. I forgot the name that you guys suggested. Hold on. I'll be right back. I cannot find the name that you guys suggested me. Sorry if you... It was a really good name. I'm sorry I can't find it. I'm just going to call her Nana. It just seems right, Nana. So, Nana and Eri meet each other. Nana is a little younger than Eri, and they get along. So, it's now. No, Nana's a lot younger than Eri. If she was 6 when and they started the canon timeline, she'd be. Why is math so hard right this second? 7. No. 9. And Nana would be 3. So they have a 6-year time gap. And so they go to school. They get along. 10-year time gap. So Aries just graduating to UA, and Nana's just getting into middle school. And Izumi just got accepted as a teacher to UA, and she's now the 1A teacher. Oh, okay. It's my dinner time. But she just got accepted as the 1A teacher, and she's now teaching Eri and a bunch of newbies. So she walks in, and she looks like this, and she says, "All right, all you bunch of problem people," and she doesn't call them children because she doesn't call her child her adoptive child a child. She calls her a young lady because she is the age of a young lady in Japan. So she walks in and says, all you problem people, and I'll call you a child if you don't let's succeed in this class." And she does the Aizawa test, and they go to the USJ, and all of a sudden they are attacked. So the entire process happens over again. And Izumi's like, "God damn it." And Eri goes, "Mom, language." And she goes, "Yes, sweetie, I know. Gosh dang it. I'm going to go fuck up these little problem villains, and I'll be right back." And Eri just face palms going, "God dang it. She won't listen to me." And so 5 minutes later, they're all bound and chained in chains, and Naruko, who's the assistant in this time, is just standing there watching, because they're married. She's watching her wife basically mess up all these dudes very quickly. And she was tasked with protecting the children, and there was one guy who got past Izumi and was ganning for the children, and Naruko took care of him really quickly. And Izumi, who noticed this at the very end, says, "You get a reward tonight." And Naruko got shivers. And Eri overheard this, is like, "Oh God." And she walks up to her parents and says, "Can I sleep over at a friend's house tonight?" And they go, "Why?" And she goes, "Because I feel like it'd be fun." And Izumi says, "On one condition." And Eri goes, "Yes? If there's any boys, you come straight home." And Eri goes, "Fine." She goes, "Good." So life goes on from there, and the cycle repeat itself constantly. Every 3 years there would be an attack on UA, and everybody's like, "What's happening to UA?" And Izumi finally gets to Nezu and says, "Okay, I'm tired of defending these. I will make a pact with you so you can know exactly what time and day the UA is going to be attacked, and you can plan ahead of time. But you lose your IQ." And he goes, "Okay, I agree." So he becomes the lovable Nezu we all know, and he doesn't have the sadistic side like he does. Because he lost all memories of the experiments and his IQ that went with it. He could still talk, he could still be Nezu, but he doesn't know everything like he did in canon. So there's no more attacks on UA, and everybody is happy, and the demon and the demon with the ability to be an angel is her name and on the streets as Lucifer, the fallen angel of this world. So everybody's like, whenever they see her, they're like, "Oh my God, it's Lucifer!" And they're all fangirling and fanboying them over her, and she just disappears and be like, Fame is so annoying." So I couldn't really think of anything else besides the finish up of the Naruto arc and the. If I didn't do the overhaul arc last time, I did it now, and if I did last time, it's not happened. Hopefully you guys like it, because I'm tired and I'm hungry, so I'm going to go eat. Hopefully you guys had some good lunch and dinner, and ooh, Philly. But whatever time zone you're in, hopefully you have a good day or night or whatever it is at this time. Bye. See you guys next time.